What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 26 and our conclusion for Shadow of the Erdtree. So at this point, the only thing left is the final boss and your endings. So Radahn, consort of Mikola, is going to be your final boss. This is the prime version of Radahn everybody had to fucking ask for, right? So getting into this fight, there is one thing I want, just kind of want to go over with you guys. There's been a lot of guides made for players to get past Radahn. With that being said, and this is something I mentioned before, everyone has always covered a walkthrough for strength because strength is undoubtedly the best way to go in here. Me personally, I don't like that. I don't think it's fair for everyone else because it's pretty much saying, hey, if you're not a strength build, you can't do it, and then you need to conform or change your builds. So, what about everybody else? So, to that end, we're going to be taking the harder route here. However, it still doesn't have to be hard if you get my drift. We're going to get you guys very well prepared, very well set up. But I do want to point out, if you are doing a strength builder, you don't mind conforming, you don't mind doing whatever you got to do to make life easier, going down here to the Black Steel Great Shield was pretty much made for this fight. With this thing's upgraded with the right Ashes of War set to Sacred, you will actually get 100 holy damage negation, and holy's the biggest problem here, guys. That's what's going to just rip you apart. Then obviously with being a great shield, big tanky build, you have 100 physical, so you're going to be protected from everything if you have the stamina. So the gist of it is you're going to set a sacred affinity, don't matter the Ash of War. You want to have plenty of stamina, at least 40, plenty of strength to wield this with a decent weapon, and you're just going to hide behind that shield and poke the enemy. We will be doing something similar. However, it's going to cover everyone who is not strength. So first things first, we need to talk about Ashes of War. So I have brung up Queelan's weapon because for whatever reason this thing gets very high blood loss. So we're going to go on down. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to be using Ashes of War, but we're going to set that to blood affinity. Look at that, 125. I even found other weapons that were naturally doing blood loss, and I was only getting like 81. I don't know why this is so high, but it's so high, that we want to use this. Rapiers work just like spears. We can hide behind the shield, stay protected, and use this to build up bleed. So most of our damage is coming from the blood loss. However, with this being fully upgraded, or our regular damage is not going to be too shabby either. Then with that, going over to the brass shield, I found, my testing. This was the best medium shield to go in here with. We're going to be getting just under 70% holy damage negation. Why that's not 100? You guys gotta understand, like a shield getting over 50 or 60 for holy is pretty rare, So for us to get all the way up to almost 70, it's going to be enough. It's going to be more difficult than strength, like I said, but just to show it's still possible. Now, there's a lot of choices when it's going to come to your physic here, guys. A lot of choices. I will be sticking with deflection hearts here and stone barb. We want to break his poise, and we want to use deflection here, not so much for the guard counter aspects, but if you were managing this like a pair, you're not always holding up your shield, guys. In fact, the way this fight's going to go is we're more focused on perfectly blocking his attacks. One hit here, one hit there, we're backing up. We are more concerned with blocking than attacking. This is extremely important. However, with deflection hearts here, if we can perfect block and conserve our stamina in between, that perfect block won't get the chip damage from his magic, holy, and physical. Like, it typically would. If you just block, you will take chip damage because of the magic. But with deflection, as long as we hit the last second, we'll be fine. And then it's not going to destroy our stamina bar, more importantly. So that would be, my recommendation. And Stone Barb's nice, but Stone Barb, I don't know, it's really not that important here. I mean, I definitely recommend it, but there's other things we could do. In fact, we could boost our damage negation. We could boost our damage. There's actually one right here. Thorny Correct here makes consecutive attacks grow stronger, so I'll boost our damage because we're going to be staying on him when we are attacking. As far as damage negation, you guys could do that too, but what I like about what we're doing is I have spells. Protection of the erdtree to boost our holy damage negation. Then we're going to have Black Flames protection to boost our physical damage negation, so that's going to cover. All of our talismans are about survivability this time, guys, so just to quickly go over that. Golden Braid, boost holy damage negation by the utmost. That's going to help out. We're going to boost our guarding ability. That deflection hard tier, everything else we've went over, that's going to help out a lot. Pearl Shield Talisman boosts all non-physical damage negation. So holy while guarding. That's really really important than just our guarding in general. And then getting that extra stamina. I did a brief respec because I had to get 16 strength for the shield, but we were able to get 30 points into endurance. I also highly recommend that. Now, only other thing to talk about is our quick items, which I'm about to do. But I'm going to grab a level real quick, put that back into faith. Um, So pretty much, there's one very unique attack he's going to do here. If you guys remember when we took up the Scatter Tree Flower, we got Mikula's Broken Great Room. So there's a grab attack he does. It doesn't do any damage, but it's going to charm you. If he does this twice, the fight's automatically over. You've been persuaded, and the world's ended or whatever the fuck happens. You know what I'm saying? So what you're going to do, if he grabs you once, you're going to use that Great Rune. That's going to cleanse the effect you put on you, and that means he's going to have to do 2 more grabs to actually warp your mind, so to speak. So that's very important. Then the Ash of War we're going to be going with, guys, is not Golden Parrot. That already changed that. We want to actually put on Barricade Shield. This is another, I mean, everything here is just as important as everything else. I keep going, oh, that's the most important. I mean, because they all are that damn important. But we're going to do Barricade Shield with Sacred Affinity. So pretty much a Barricade Shield. For those of you that kind of slept on it in the base game like I did, anytime he does one of his big holy attacks, we just tap L2. And now you see our shields kind of have that little poise glow to it. It's going to negate a lot of that damage, right? So going in here, you have 2 summon signs. If you have done all the quests, you're going to have Chill the 8 over here, poison, damage over time. Or you're going to have Ansbach. So Ansbach's going to be much better. We're doing Blood Loss. He does Blood Loss. This will give the boss 20% more health, but it also is going to give you distraction. Let's pop our flask. Now, he does have access to some Blood Flame if he does a thrust and then a back swipe. The third is going to be an explosion of Blood Flame blades. So just roll behind him when he does that. After some of his combos, he'll get his sword stuck to the ground. They'll pull it up and make the ground rumble. Roll behind him for that. Aside from that, if he puts his weapons to the ground and starts doing gravity magic, that's going to be delay, dodge through, and then he goes up in the air, shoots a bunch of meteors, run all the way to the left or the right, and jump at the last second. And that's some of the bigger things and how to deal with those.
Now, the vow will be honored.
Like I said, we're just going to kind of do it live, right? He has Savage Lion's Claw too, so he does that front flip. He'll always start with that, but if he does that front flip, do not get greedy, guys. Wait. Yep, so we waited there because there might be a second one to follow. Remember, let off and just try to time. Alright, there's the Blood Flame. So, see how that? Boom, delayed explosion, just get back. Remember, you just want to try to use our shield as a parry. Dodge, dodge. Or you can get behind him and use that little rumble for a guard counter. So far, so good. Yeah, as far as this combo, that's just something you gotta have to go in enough to practice and learn some time ago. Remember, it's all about stamina. Roll. All about stamina. Attacking's cool, but it's not gonna be everything there. Right? Staying alive is everything. He's got a lot of one-shots here. Really going heavy with the blood right there. There you go. Phase 1. Hardly took any damage. Just a little bit of ship damage. So going in phase 2, we're immediately going to summon Mimic. We're going to heal, and he'll either come in with some crazy shit that he's usually doing with as far as his combos, but if he starts glowing and floating in the air, it's a huge explosion. We're going to barricade shield immediately. Now, like I said, everything else is pretty much the same here. He can go up in the sky. Alright, so we're going to barricade shield. He can go up in the sky and like rush at you very quickly. He's got like a bunch of shadow versions behind him. Just walk through it. You'll take damage like this. You're going to take damage, but it's not going to be as well. The holding, this is what we're working on. Now when he pulls that up, boom. And you can use Barricade Shield if you're really swift with it right there. So there's a grab. Who'd he get? He got Mimic? Yep. Trying to target Mimic against us, I guess. And also, if you want to craft pots, we can be going in here with empty Blood Loss pots or rocks. Because that's just 2 weaknesses, guys. It's going to be Blood Loss and Rot, you know what I mean? So it's really up to you guys. Because you can stay the distance and just kind of sit back here. Over my bucks. Alright, he'll do it. Actually doing decent to maintain our heals, guys. And he's got some big world-ending movesets as well. When he does them, he does a really big one where he like disappears, run all the way to the edge. Anything else? Barricade shield, guys. Barricade shield. Yeah, and you can't roll through that. I just want to say the timing is fucked up. Alright, this is the bad one. So you're running all the way to the wall. Land, barricade, check the space. Oh, I dropped the fucking shield. It's okay. I didn't even use my spells or anything. This is really just a rough run. I'm not expecting to actually, beat him here. I mean, we could, but we hadn't even used all the tools to our advantage. That way, if we're still having some difficulties, there's still some spells and, other stuff we can use. But, I mean, it's that simple, guys, right? Like I said, you still have Black Flame protection, extra physical damage negation. You still had protection of the erdtree, extra holy damage negation. But our talismans, our build, our flask, everything we use to our advantage, our Aspect of War, our affinities, all these kind of tied together and made this not a joke, but very much easier. With that being said, if you notice, the way I was using my shield, you still got to kind of learn the moveset and when to, block and try to get those parries off, sure. But phase one, I actually never had a problem with. I think I was stuck for like 10 minutes and then I got it dialed in. Because he's only doing like 5 things. He's just doing a lot of it, right? So you do got to understand that. But all that stuff we were doing where he was like doing his regular combos and all that holy came up and we're blocking, barely taking any damage. You got to remember that usually one shots you every time, and that's why phase two he'll throw his weapon to the ground and where he pulls up the rocks and we usually dodge behind. Well, usually if any of that holy hits you, it's a one shot. In our case, it moved our health bar like an inch, and that's because of our setup. So as long as you're set up for the holy damage negation, I just it's really not that difficult. But it is from software making actually use all of your knowledge of everything you've learned from affinities, damage negation, what the proper setup, and really just tying everything from the base game and the DLC together. I mean, we're using DLC weapon, base game shield. We have 2 or 3 talismans from DLC, one from the base game, and you're really just tying all this stuff together. And you know, but either way, guys, I really, really, really hope this has helped. I know this fight's very difficult. I was actually hoping we'd die the first time so we could go pop our spells and show there other things. I wanted to show off the spells, and then, like I said, we could have came over here, made pots, and that was the other thing. But there was so much to our setup, guys. There was so much to our setup that we already mentioned. It just kind of slipped the mind, but we didn't need it. But yeah, we could have went in with 2 options here. Hefty rot pot. That's why our summon and Ansbach kind of tied him down. We could have stayed back from afar. It takes 2 to 3 pots of rot. Then that's going to be doing pretty quick damage over time. And then since we were going at him with blood loss, we could have used the hefty fly pot. Throw that from afar. Then we get in. It wouldn't take us as many hits to proc that blood loss. But we're doing blood loss. Mimic's doing blood loss. Ansbach's doing blood loss. And he was actually using blood flame. So, I mean, with that, it does. It just makes it much easier, and then that's why you want to save Mimic for Phase 2, because Phase 1's just not that difficult once you go in here a few times. Phase 2 and the Holy's the trouble. Protect yourself from the Holy, use your Mimic, use your items. If he grabs you once, you're going to use that Great Rune, so it still takes 2 more grabs to enchant you. So, just put all this stuff together, guys. You will get it. So either way, once you take him down, you're obviously going to get a Remembrance, and then right over here, we did already pick up the gesture. Touching this member gives you one last little cutscene, and that's going to be the end. So before we do that, we're not only going to grab this side of grace, we actually need to rest at it, because there's 2 sets you can pick up, which is going to be Jolier's and then Ansbach's, which actually Ansbach's is pretty impressive. So right over here, Jolier set. So hidden needle, mask, the whole thing. Hidden needle's a weapon. Then Ansbach's a real treat, in my opinion. So his set is pretty cool. It's so different. But Obsidian Lamina, pretty awesome. Furious Blade of Ansbach. That is a Blood Flame Blade Ash of War. So you happen to get both, which is really nice. Cleaves through enemies with Blood Flame Blade summoned from side of hand. Then the Obsidian causes blood loss build up at 63. Do keep in mind that I do have 40 levels in Arcane, so it wouldn't typically be that high. Then upgrading it will make it higher. But another Dex Arcane weapon, straight up just physical blood loss weapon. Really cool with Blood Flame Ash of War. I'm pretty sure. I think that I've never used it though, so to me, I'm pretty sure that how this would work is you'd have to put that Ash of War on that weapon. You can put on whatever you want, but it would go with that weapon quite well. So we have rested. We've got our rewards. Still have another level here. We're gonna put that in. And now, one last thing before you get your ending. If you guys come all the way down here, St. Trina. Because remember, Mikula, St. Trina's two halves of the same person. So St. Trina's Blossom. Slightly boosts maximum mana, which is, kind of weird, right? To get this late. I mean, right at the end of the base game and the DLC, but there you go. It gets you, what is that, a talisman, right? I've never used it, guys. Pretty sure it's a talisman. Let's see. Hmm. Oh, no, that was the other one we got. St. Trina's Smile. It might be like a utility item. I don't know. Like I said, I've never used it. I just always assumed it was a talisman. There's two items of acquisition. Order of acquisition. Okay, so it's not. So, which would mean it's just a regular item? Like a utility item? It'd have to be. All of our utility items are here. I mean, it can't be a consumable. That's not the order of acquisition, because our flask is all the way at the bottom. I don't know what the hell that is. Huh, I don't... Yes, I honestly do not know what that is. Like I said, I never used it. Just never really thought much about it. I was like, oh, okay, cool, talisman, and, went on my way, but I'm not seeing it pop up. But either way, got you something cool. If you guys are interested in it, look into it. You know what I mean? It couldn't possibly be. It couldn't possibly be. Oh my god, it is. Oh, not a helm. Okay. That's different. Yeah, that was my last thought. I'm like, no fucking way, bro. But it is. So there you go, guys. That wraps everything up. Now we do need to go on back, obviously, to the Gate of Divinity. Get your final cutscene. We'll take you guys over to the Round Table Hold. Go over your boss soul. Then I did want to cover the different choices you guys could have made, which we've already covered as we went through, but, just as like a little closeout. Not really much comes with this. Doesn't really reveal that much, but it's here. Yeah, guys, don't need a strength build. Like I said, I've always hated that guy. So it's, oh, if you're not strength, you can't beat him. I don't like that. So now you guys see you don't need it.
I'm going to be a god. If we honor our part of the vow, promise me you'll be my consort.
Like I said, I think the vow was bringing him back to life. He was like godly, so you could talk to him after death, apparently. So if we honor our part of the vow, we'd be my consort. If we bring back to life, will you serve me? So then this is pretty neat. This is another item you got. Can't really see it. My hairstyle, which is like a little crown, which really goes good with Malekith's set, I think. Really, really goes good. So you don't get your cutscene rolling. It's a DLC, not the true ending of the game. But you did get the little, the cutscene, a little bit of insight into the lore. So this is just Radahn's weapon again, two different versions of it, and then the spell. So it's one of those really rare boss remembrances where you actually get three things. So if you want all three, you guys know what you got to do. But Light of Mikula annihilates foes with Pillar of Light, which is what he did during that fight, God tier type stuff here. If you are going to New Game Plus, it could help with some of those bosses with that higher scaling. And now you have two sets of this. You have Lord and Light. So Great Sword of Lord, physical, magical. If you notice, physical, magical, weight's the same, scaling's the same. One has higher mana cost, but that's really it. Now, with that being said, oh, I think you see how this says -10 in FP cost. I think that's because we have on the crown and it goes with it. By the way, just to mention. But yeah, it's just different Ashes of War. So, Promise Consort, and then you have Leap Light Slash. Sorry, guys. I had something going at the house. But yeah, we're about to close out anyways. But yeah, it's just different stuff. If you guys want to check them out, duplicate them. This is probably more for like a holy type deal as far as your, weapon art. And that's more of like magic. That's the way I would look at it. But yeah, everything else is the same. And as far as doing quests different, if you didn't do the invasion at with Letta and Hornsent at the Shadow Keep, he would have been in that big battle royale at the end. You could have just ignored those summon signs. Then of course with more, you wouldn't have told him to be sad forever. You would have cheered him up. Then he would have invaded you at the end as well. And that's really the only other choices besides the Dragon Lady and putting her to sleep, which we did show you guys how to do. But either way, guys, with that, it's time for the bittersweet moment of closing out. As many of you know that have followed along, as this is a newer channel, I did not get to cover a walkthrough for the base game when it was released. So we saw this all the way through. I've been working on this. I mean, we're well over 100 hours now. I've been working on it for the last month and a half, so it's just hard to believe it's over. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have as well, and I hope it got you guys your platinum. I hope got you guys all your items and help you get through the game and figure all these things out. And with that, we will catch y'all back with our next series.